Now this morning we're going to be looking at what to look for when buying an old house. Now before we look at the what's, I want to ask the question why. What's the main reason that propels someone to buy an old house? Is it an issue of nostalgia, or is it that we might just be in love with the architectural aesthetics?
Well, actually, a bit of both. Let's consider old homes anything that is further than 50 years of age. The beauty of those properties is that they often come with quite a bit of charm. And as you know, especially in Barbados, the traditional style of house, it has a lot of character. So that may be what attracts people to old homes in the first place. And also they usually come with what we call good bones. They're built sturdy, built to last. So at least they have, a solid structure to start with.
Okay, so we're talking about limestone and some good old-fashioned mahogany in there.
Yes. And of course, you can take an older home now and customize it, bring it forward to look traditional on the outside, older on the outside, but fresh and modern on the inside.
Now let's start by looking at what we need to look for when getting that home. Should we be looking to see the strength of the foundation? Should we be looking at how the roof is? What should be the things that propel us in terms of making that final decision as to whether or not we should buy?
Well, due diligence is due diligence, whether old or young. So the same things that you would look for in a, ready-built, ready-to-move-in home, you would look at in an old house, but of course you'll take out your magnifying glass and look a bit deeper. So let's start, for example, with the foundation. When you walk through that house, of primordial importance are there some serious cracks around? Now, of course, you have, it is standard to have movement in the earth when you build a property. Over time, the earth moves. That's the reality. But a simple little crack is different from a crack in which you can fit a 10-cent or a 25-cent piece. So from the time you see that, you might know that there are some structural issues, and it may be more than just natural shifting of the earth. So you want to pay attention to that.
Okay, what about looking at the roof now?
Now the roof, at the end of the day, it is the covering of your head, and the reality is that some sellers may skillfully disguise areas which had leaks and so forth. So, that paint might be on the ceiling when you roll up, and you might not necessarily know that this roof has an issue. So you want to get your carpenter up there, your contractor, and check out, for example, if you're using permaclad, if the permaclad sheets are up to scratch, if there's any rusting, and also the actual roof structure, the wooden structure. Has it eroded? Has it been eaten by pests? Is it still sturdy? So you want to make sure that is also taken care of.
Okay, now with any home, it has to be up to code, and one of the most important codes to get sign off on your home is that of the electricals and ensuring that those are fit for purpose. Now, if I go into this quaint looking, charming stone home that I want to buy, and I see those round switches, which when you flick, you actually hear the knob click. Is that a warning sign?
Well, the irony is that they may go on and last and last and last. But here's something to keep in mind, that once, especially when you're buying older homes too, it is very common that the electricity has been switched off for some time. Nobody's upkeeping it necessarily. So once that electricity is off for 6 months or more, you have to get an inspection for the sake of the government electrical service, to make sure that you are up to code in terms of the electricals, which I think is great. It also ensures that you have X amount of plugs per wall, per room, and so forth, and that obviously the electrical wiring that you're using is up to scratch. And remember that the cause of some fires is due to electrical surges and that wiring being bad. So you want to ensure that that is in order before you even get going.
Let's look at the plumbing now. If I go into the washroom and I see, well, there's a half bathroom here with just the face basin, and then when I actually go into the shower section, I don't have the modern looking bathroom, but I actually have the tank which is above my head with that pull. Does that mean that the plumbing is shot, or could it still be workable?
Now remember, the beauty of a lot of these older fixtures is that they can work and work and work. So it doesn't necessarily mean that they'll count out on you. But what you need to check, of course, is your plumbing in terms of the pipes. Remember, a lot of older homes may have had old school galvanized and different aluminum type pipes, which are not only harmful for you when they erode on the inside, you don't want to be getting that into your system, but also they may be at a stage where it's time to change them. What people have been using in recent times, of course, are PVC pipes and other materials similar to that. You don't want to change out the plumbing fixtures, have nice, cute plumbing fixtures, and then behind the walls, so you want to get your plumber on top of that.
Okay, now sometimes when you go and you look at some of the features of the house, when you get up close with the magnifying glass, you tend to see that there's a bit of flaking or powdering of the paint on that stone wall. Or when you enter the room, there might be a dankness which envelops you, and you're like, this house seems a little wet, and it's not raining on the outside, How can you counter those things if you're still so attracted to the house that you want to buy it?
Yeah.
What are the fix-its to be able to deal with those issues?
Well, thank goodness there are fixes. Yes, the dampness, that is a serious situation, especially those of you who already have respiratory problems. You move in a house with what you call rising damp. The dampness is being pulled out of the earth into the blocks. You're in for a long haul of health issues. But thank goodness there are persons in Barbados qualified to do serious waterproofing. Sometimes where they get down in the dirt outside of the exterior and apply waterproofing paint and different substances that stop any moisture from coming in. But besides that, you have to keep in mind that some materials just pull in water. For example, limestone, coral stone, they naturally absorb water. After all, they serve as natural filters for our own drinking water. So even with those types of blocks in place, you would have to speak to your waterproofing specialist to see what really can be done a bit extra from just coating to stop that issue, to make it go away.
Let's look at the pests now, which would be affecting the home, whether it be the walls, whether it be the foundation, because it's not always only termites. There are other bugs there that, may upset the balance of things. What are some of the things we should be looking out for?
Well, termites, of course, number one. Remember, when you are buying that property, you don't know when last the termite treatment was done. And if those previous owners did a termite treatment at the beginning, it's now 50, 60, 70 years old. And those treatments are usually good for what, 10 years or thereabouts. Yeah. So you want to do a thorough inspection on anything wooden because it can look very glossy and shiny on the outside, but those termites can do a number on the inside. And of course, even in terms of, we had a house being shown recently that the agent then realized, why is there a tail above me? There were rodents in the roof. Sometimes you also will get bats, because bats will look for nice dark places to hang out. And you then hear them in there when you've moved in and wonder how to get them out. So it is good to have a contractor come and take their ladder and look all up in that ceiling, see if they see any droppings, anything like that. All of that you want to treat beforehand.
Okay, now when should we decide this property is not for us and just walk away and leave it?
When you start realizing that the costs are adding up to way more than buying a house, walk away. Actually, run for your life. Sit down with your pencil and your calculator and calculate the cost. You would know what your budget is, because the reality is you can get some really good deals if you buy an older home. But let's calculate now. Is it worth it? When you look at those numbers on that paper, is this really worth it? So only you would know.